Welcome to Close Calls with California Poison Control. I'm Dr. Race Vora, Medical Director with the Fresno Madera Division of Cal Poison, joined by my co-host.
I'm Dr. Cyrus Rankin, Assistant Medical Director of California Poison Control System.
Our featured expert today is Dr. Matthew Lippy. Dr. Lippy is an emergency medicine expert and a toxicology fellow at University of California, San Diego and the San Diego Division of Poison Control. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking today about hydrogen peroxide and its use as an alternative medication. And that might surprise some people because it's probably something that they have in their medicine cabinet. They've probably used it in their lives. But what makes this a hazard? What conditions can actually make it more of a poison that people get into trouble with? Can you talk about that?
Of course, yeah. This is something that we've been seeing every now and again in our clinical practice here. So it's almost two different things to think about. So there's probably the 3 to 5%, the low concentration hydrogen peroxide that you might have in your medicine cabinet. And then you also might have another type of hydrogen peroxide in there that's sometimes found in hair bleaching or maybe in food sterilization, baby bottle sterilization fluids, that can cause a few more problems. And so there's some, let's call it information out there on the internet that is reporting to show the health benefits of putting hydrogen peroxide into your water to increase its oxygen concentration, and then people are drinking it. There is some truth to that. If you add hydrogen peroxide to water, it does increase the amount of gas in it. And then if you drink it, the real issue becomes that gas goes to a lot of places that it's not supposed to be. And so we have seen people need some fairly intensive care after drinking small amounts of these highly concentrated solutions and getting themselves into a situation they probably didn't anticipate when they were just trying to be healthy.
Yeah, I think whenever we put it on like a wound, for example, you see it bubble up right away. And it's really all those bubbles. That's, the formula for hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. So we know there's oxygen bubbles that form right away. And, you said it's really the concentration of those oxygen bubbles that can get people into trouble with those high concentrations. So talk to us about, as an emergency physician, what have you seen or heard about with these high concentrations of hydrogen peroxide? What kinds of things can people, suffer from whenever they get it in their system?
So kind of mild symptoms that we've seen every now and again is some mouth irritation, some throat irritation. If they're inhaling the vapors, they might get some nasal irritation. And then, on the severe end of it, they could have really, really bad stomach pain. If they get bubbles, for example, in their brain, they can have symptoms that look a lot like a stroke. When we're looking at these pictures, this is a picture of somebody's abdomen here. So on the screen left, you're seeing their liver. And if you look closely at those images, you're seeing these really dark lines through their liver. This is gas that's actually inside of this person's liver, where it's really not supposed to be. And it's really impacting the liver's ability to function normally. And this was from someone drinking, mostly water with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide in it.
So all these gas bubbles are just kind of pushing into the liver. Those are all those dark spots that you see in some of these images. And, this imaging is something that I imagine has to be done right away just to figure out, what somebody's risk is, after they've ingested either accidentally or intentionally hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah,
Anything
that's
else?
absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, right? This is something that really, if you or someone has recently drunk hydrogen peroxide, right, that's a great reason to call the Poison Control Center or to go to your nearest emergency department, because you or they may need some sort of imaging and some sort of critical treatment to make sure that this isn't something that's going to cause potentially catastrophic problems. This is another similar image of someone who drank some hydrogen peroxide, and they have a bunch of bubbles inside their brain, which is not a place that we should ever really have bubbles. And the real problem is that it's obstructing the blood flow to certain areas of the brain.
So that's basically a stroke. I mean, if you're not getting nourishment to your brain cells, we're looking at dozens of strokes happening where all of these little dark bubbles are that you could see on these brain scans. So that's very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything that can be done at that stage? Or I imagine that this person would need to be admitted to the hospital to be sure. Any other kind of critical care treatment that they would require?
Yeah, so a lot of the care for these folks is supportive. So making sure that, if they're having a hard time breathing, that we can help them breathe. If they're having issues with any of their other organs, that we're able to support them through that. Some of these people do get put into what's called a hyperbaric chamber that increases the pressure around them and decreases the size of those bubbles. But that comes with its own risks. And so it's definitely something that, given the choice, I would prefer not to put somebody through, but it is something that is sometimes necessary.
In thinking about this in a sort of a bigger picture context, obviously, if someone drank this stuff because they were maybe unfortunately trying to hurt themselves, all of this stuff can happen. But you mentioned earlier about the misinformation on the internet and that people may be drinking this stuff not because they're trying to hurt themselves, but they're actually trying to treat some kind of medical condition. Could you talk a little bit about that misinformation that people might be reading and why people have been talking about, oh, drink hydrogen peroxide for medical condition X? What are those kinds of misinformation that people might be reading about?
I mean, I think this hydrogen peroxide is like a lot of the alternative medications that maybe we're reading about on the internet these days, right? They're purporting to treat a wide variety of conditions, ranging from things as simple as I have a mild upset stomach, all the way to something terrible like I have cancer. Um, and the thought behind it is one that sort of on its face makes a lot of sense, right? Like, we all know that we need oxygen in our bodies, and staying well oxygenated is very important. And hydrogen peroxide does produce oxygen gas, and so I understand where people kind of get the idea from. The issue is our GI tract is not really designed to absorb oxygen in the same way that our lungs are. And so if you put a lot of oxygen into our stomach and into our intestines, it has to go somewhere, and it ends up causing bubbles into a lot of places that we don't want them.
I assume this problem with using something like hydrogen peroxide, there's probably a lot of other stuff out there that people see a lot of misinformation about using various products in the wrong way, and then consequently get some poisoning or toxicity.
Absolutely. There's information all over the internet purporting to, tell you the hidden truth about how this medication or even this product that you already have in your home can fix a wide variety of ailments that you hopefully don't have but may have. And the reality is it's probably best to talk to your physician or some other trusted health professional that you are working with before starting any treatment, whether it's an alternative medication or otherwise. Because as we've talked about today with hydrogen peroxide as an example, there's a lot of unintended consequences that can happen by starting one of these things without the help of someone who has taken the time to study it.
Great point.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Matt. Let's close with just offering a couple of safety tips for our viewers. How can they stay safe around hydrogen peroxide and possibly other alternative medications? Can you share some takeaways?
Of course. Yeah. I think, the big one is what we were just talking about, right? If we're going to be starting any sort of treatment, whether it's a prescription medication or whether it is something that's maybe not prescription, it's best to kind of have a conversation with a health professional about the risks, the benefits, and what you can sort of expect. That applies to all types of alternative medications as well. So, there are plenty of supplements and plenty of, traditional remedies that can cause problems. And then if you are concerned that you maybe have started this, whether it's hydrogen peroxide or something else, and you're concerned that you're having side effects, right? The Poison Center is free and readily available to talk about those side effects. You can also call your regular physician, or if you're really concerned, you can go to an emergency department.
Great information. Thanks so much, Dr. Matt Lippy. And for the viewers at home, remember, you can always call our poison control hotline to learn more about hydrogen peroxide risks and hazards, as well as any other alternative medications that you might be curious about. Thank you both so much, gentlemen, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.